Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders Without podcast. Today, I have another, not just repeat, but a three-peat. He's the second guest on my podcast to reach that milestone after our amazing common friend, Randy Brown, Coach Randy. Today, I have the honor of having Mr. Bryan Tarr again for part three, or I don't know, should I use the same term as I use with Coach? Game three. I don't know if you're into sports, but game three, this will be game two. We're going to go all the way to a game seven. You know what I mean? You know?
or beyond.
Yeah. So if you're a baseball guy, maybe what is it? To the ninth inning or whatever. I'm not a baseball guy, but you know what I mean. So it's going to be a fun one. Just to summarize things briefly, episode one, game one was just sharing Bryan's journey and path. It was such an incredible one that I had to bring him back for part two, which was a really touching, and I was really honored that he opened up to such a way that it left both of us really emotional, especially toward the end. He opened his heart to me, to my audience in ways that I was really humbled. He shared the story of how he spent, some can say only 30 days, but believe me, even one day in jail is hell. And he spent 30 hellish days, how it was from going from one location to another, and all the internal dealings and politics of dealing with inmate and all that. So that was absolutely fascinating. This was part two. I recommend you guys watch it. And today it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be about the moment he regained his freedom. He went back. He was freed again, and how he was basically rebuilding his life from scratch, bouncing back, just like Coach Randy said, rebounding forward. So this is what we're going to be talking today. So without any further ado, brother, welcome back on the show.
I love it. A three-peat. That's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. So what is it after that? Quadrupeat? Do you say that? Can you say that in English? Quadrupeat?
I don't know. We can make it up.
Tetra. If you're losing Latin terms, it would be tetrapeat. Okay, tetrapeat. Let's see. Or whatever it is. Yeah. All right.
Glad to be here and share my experience.
Absolutely. So tell us, how are you doing today?
Today's a phenomenal day. Happy to be alive. Very joyful, finding joy in every moment. Life has its ups and downs every single day, but I'm finding a way to navigate those as if it's a game. And so the challenges come up, and I've got some new tools and techniques to be able to deal with them. And the result of who I am being in every day is just more fulfilling than ever. I've got wonderful people around me. I've got wonderful people that I work with. I've got people that just call me up. A friend of mine called me up earlier and said, "How you doing today? Is there anything you need?" To have somebody like that in your life that just calls me. My girl calls me and checks in and asks me how I'm doing, and she knows when I'm not telling her the truth, and she knows how to make me smile. It's just, so blessed to be in this journey of where I'm going. And even I don't exactly know what heights that I'm going to be able to elevate myself to serve other people. It's just a good day. It's just a really good day.
That's amazing to you. That can be definitely the topic for game four. What's next? The next chapter from beyond in the future. And that could
I've heard
be
it said that one of the things that I hear it said is in this journey, we're never going to get it right, and we're never going to be done with it. So it's a constant process of living. That helped me to let go of trying to get my life in such a place where I've got it and it's good, or I've achieved it, or now it's peaceful and I can relax, or I've protected myself and now I've kept myself safe. All of that I was led to believe we want to try to get the thing and be in the place was a lie, was just not true. It's somebody else's dream. Life is supposed to be messy, and life is supposed to be challenging, and how we navigate it, that's what makes our lives fulfilling.
Absolutely. Life is a journey. You know, we're all here to learn. As they always keep on saying, not only it's a school, but it's a buffet for us, like a beautiful, delicious 5-star Michelin restaurant for us to try all kind of dishes. And by dishes, I mean experiences and dishes too. But let's get back to where we left off last time. So last time we mentioned that you mentioned that So once you were freed, your parents came pick you up early in the morning, and the first place you wanted to go was go to the beach.
Correct. And for those that are listening, if you want to understand what we're talking about when I was finally let go, you need to watch the previous episode.
Oh, yes.
And that'll fill you in on all the details.
Absolutely.
But there was that day when I was finally going to be released from the incarceration, from the injustice. And when we, to role play, to kind of give you a lead from that, when we got into the van, there was my mom and my dad and my beautiful girl there to remind me of who I was. They had brought a change of clothes for me. And I asked them to, because the clothes that I was given back from the time that I was incarcerated, I did not want anything to do with those again. The shoes,
Absolutely.
the socks, even the underwear, everything had to go.
Totally.
And so I changed into a separate pair of clothes that had none of the energies attached to it, put them in a bag, we gave them away. And they said, where do you want to go? I said, I need to go to the ocean. I said, okay, because I love the ocean, but there was a deeper reason. And it was something I couldn't explain to them, but they understood that it was important to me. So we drove to the ocean and I walked down to the ocean, and with love, they just let me walk down to the ocean and didn't surround me, just let me have my time. And I walked in, and my feet for so long had been in these shoes that were assigned to me, and they were in a place where they were picking up energies and they weren't safe. So my feet walked on the sand, and that gave me my freedom.
Oh, yeah.
And I walked up and I let the ocean wash over my feet, and I smelled the ocean and I could sense the ocean. But what I was waiting for was to be called back into the barracks. My brain was still telling me, you're going to get called back any minute. You're going to be called. You better enjoy this. You're going to get called back.
Time is up. Get back. Yes.
Yeah. And I was waiting for it, and I was waiting for it, and I could feel my body was waiting for it. And then it never came.
So hold
And
that
there was
thought
a
for a
moment.
second.
Yeah.
For how long after that moment in the back of your mind, you always had this dreadful feeling that, hey, they might call me back?
Probably for about 4 months or so.
Wow, that long.
For about 4 months or so, there were episodes that you would look around and you're like, is this real? Am I going to get called back in? And I had to work through that by telling my mind and my body, you're okay, you're safe. Thank you for mentioning that. There was one particular moment that I thought everything was okay, and there was a billboard that was advertising, don't get drunk, don't get a DUI. But the image was of an inmate with the handcuffs behind him in the same exact blues I was wearing. That very second, my whole body reacted, and I had no control over that. And I got panicky, and we had driven to a place to get something to eat. And I looked at my girl and I said, I need you to drive. I can't. She's like, what? I said, look at that billboard. She's like, oh no. I go, yeah, please drive me. And she talked to me, and we had to talk it through, and I had to talk myself out of that state. And with love, we got out of that state, and it got easier after that. But I remember that situation where the whole body and mind looked at that and it said, you're going back. And I had to remind my body that I was still safe and that I wasn't going to be going back.
So when did you finally realize that, hey, I'm not going back. I'm home. I'm free now, for real? As long as I don't screw up, I'm free.
The very first point was at the beach.
Okay.
Because I stood there and the message repeated and repeated. But then all of a sudden I felt my mind and body said, wait a minute, nobody's calling us. Nobody's telling us where to go. We're still here. We're not in a barracks. Are we free?
Are we forget about free? Me? Yeah.
Right. And I went, yes. And then I said a prayer on the beach of gratitude and a prayer of thanksgiving. And I was like, yeah, Bryan, you're free. And I took a breath, had some tears, then I returned back to my family, and they could see the emotion on my faces, and they just hugged me. They said, "Yeah, you're okay now, Bryan." That was the first time I really realized it. And that was still, then that memory was an anchor. Anytime the episodes came back, I anchored back on the sound of the ocean, and I would play it to remind me that I am still free.
So do you go back to
And
that same exact spot on the ocean, on the beach, or do you go to a different location just to not have those memories come back?
I visited the ocean a lot after that to remind me of that and to reenact that. And when I would go to the ocean to reenact that, I would sit there, and people were like, this guy's got to be a tourist. He's standing there letting the water run over his feet. I'm like, but you don't know what I'm doing. I was celebrating again. I was celebrating again. And then and that helped it to become a internal reminder that the memories and the trauma eventually stopped because they had no more power.
Wow. So you said something powerful. As soon as you left that prison, you got rid of everything, your clothes, underwear, everything. But now, what did you do to also get rid of all these mental blocks and thoughts inside of you, to get rid of those? Because that's the most difficult part, to get rid of it. And I can imagine this was a long process. So how did you do that? Did you have any kind of help from, I don't know, from
It's so funny. I'm remembering back, and I'm actually having to go back. How did I get through that?
Is there a program for people that just leave a prison system to be helped, to be inserted back inside society, to help them to overcome the mental blocks, like visit the psychologist or anything?
Nope, none whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Wow.
There were programs that they're people and they go and they reach in there, but going in and dealing with it and being released, that path between being released and living a free life, there's nothing there.
Wow.
There's maybe how to get a job. There is maybe they need to become part of an AA program or that kind of thing. But the tools, in order to take your brain from what just happened to you to a truly powerful and free brain, that does not exist. That does not exist. It's like good luck. And prior to that, I had a path of personal development. So I had been exposed to personal development programs, bettering yourself. So I had what we call emotional intelligence. And it was emotional intelligence and positive intelligence. The emotional intelligence that I understand that what we think we create, and the positive intelligence that I understand my vibrations and my energy and what I can create. So I had been exposed to that. So it's like if you haven't had a really really good tasting meal in a long time, you crave it again. I think I began to crave it again.
1 second. Another thought came to mind. So you mentioned that. So were you saying that you had a spiritual awakening prior to going to prison?
Yeah, I had a couple of in a personal prior to going there. I had my first introduction, maybe decade or so before that, to personal development, where somebody said, "Hey, you need to go try this program." I thought, that's cheesy. It's personal development guru, whatever. They go, "No, Bryan, trust me, you'll like this guy." And I went. I attended the day. We did some workshops, and I thought, okay, this is whatever. This is fun. And they asked me if I knew what was my main problem, and I go, "Yeah, it's this thing over here." And they said, "Okay, well, what if it was that?" And when they said that, it was so true. I had tears coming in. That was my first experience of truth. And then I took other personal development programs, continuing to grow. And that's what was so amazing, that I took programs and continued to seek and grow myself and grow myself and grow myself. And then this happened.
So would you say, speaking from my personal experience, and as I said, everything happens for a reason, the right time. For example, for me, I had my spiritual awakening and exposure to that at the start of the pandemic, and that prepared me eventually for what was to come after, which was my father's decease and his passing over the next year and a half. That was what really prepared me to overcome that. So would you say you being exposed to personal development and having a spiritual awakening in some way before going to prison in some way prepared you and
I think
helped you bring you the tools that's going to allow you to overcome this without going crazy?
Yeah, I think there was an awareness, and the awareness was growing, but the awakening, I think, happened later. So in taking these, I understood that, and I had shifts. I call them shifts. So I attended the first personal development, and I had a shift in the way I was thinking. And then I attended another program, and I had another deep, deep shift where we actually broke arrows with our throat. And that was a shift. And so these shifts were going on in my life to change who I was being. And so that was constantly going. But in the moment, here, I think I'm doing better. Here, I think I'm doing better in my life. And then this shit happens to me. And I'm like, this is so unfair, which led to more of the trauma because I thought I was doing well. And then this is in my life, horrible darkness that you can't even fathom how dark it is. And I think I was stripped away from all distractions so that I would have an intimacy that I normally would never have known with who I believe is my relationship with my Heavenly Father. And everything was stripped away so that he could catch my attention like a father. He'll catch your ear going, you need to listen to me now. And I think that, and I didn't realize that till afterwards, that I just got through it day by day by day by day. And I didn't realize the emotional intelligence I had, the strength I had before helped carry me through that, helped get me through that. Otherwise, my mind would have been susceptible to outside influences. And the mind would have changed itself. If we adapt, the mind would have adapted to that darkness and figured, well, this is where I need to go. But I couldn't adapt to that environment because there was something there that would not change no matter what happened.
Powerful. So,
And I think that your question is that I began to seek, I knew right away that I couldn't recover on my own. So the first thing I started to think about is, who do I trust? Who do I trust? Because I have a secret that I don't want to tell anybody. So immediately after I got out, I got a secret that I didn't want to tell anybody. I was embarrassed. I was shameful. I felt a lot of shame, deep shame.
so when you disappeared for a month from your life, from your business and all that, of course, that affected you when we came back. What did you tell those people? I was on a vacation. I was on just family issues and just taking care of things at home.
Out of town.
Oh, okay.
That was my story. I lied.
Nobody probed into that. What do you mean? Where'd you go?
No,
we didn't hear about you.
I went out of town for a while.
Okay.
I went out of town for a vacation. Sorry, I haven't been able to get a hold of me because I was so ashamed that my mind quickly got creative. And I looked at the individual and I said, they're asking me questions. Okay, what time frame? What time frame? They missed me for this period of weeks. Come on, quick. Well, those 2 weeks when you're looking for me, I told them I was out of town for a while. So sorry I wasn't able to get back to you. But what question do you have? I immediately moved right on. I controlled the conversation so that we didn't talk about that. I got manipulative. Jeez.
Yeah.
I did not want to tell anybody.
So upon returning back to normal life, did you keep in touch or hear back from your ex-wife, or not at all? It was page turned.
No. There was no connection whatsoever because the prosecuting attorney who she had hired taught her how to hide.
Oh, wow.
You couldn't find her, you couldn't Google her, you couldn't search her, you couldn't stalk her. There was no way that you could find out. Still to this day, there is no way, online or offline, that you can find out where she's at.
So she, as a human being, forget about all the, the thoughts you might have in your hand, all the grudges. As a human being, she never reached out to say, "Hey, Bryan, how are you doing? I'm sorry that you had to go through 30 days of whatever long in jail," because every human being, no matter how much you want to, you've been from their perspective, badly done, still have some kind of heart to say, let me see how they're doing.
Not that person.
Wow.
Nothing. I haven't heard, and I will probably never, ever, ever hear from her again.
Mm.
And I think there's people in life that live through deception and manipulation. And the word I'm thinking of is, well, they're very manipulative, and that's their survival, and that's their whole world. And if you in any way pose a threat to that, you won't hear from them. So I will never hear from her again, ever. I don't expect to. And she never contacted me again.
Do you
She
guys
never
have
contacted
any
me.
common friends?
Nope.
Yeah.
We may have some friends that are in common, but the friends that we have in common
Mm.
are not a communication conduit. They may
Okay.
let me know stories. They may
Okay.
let me know she's still alive. I think she's
Okay.
still alive to this day, but there is no communication whatsoever. And it took me probably the good part of a year to get past the anger
Mhm.
into forgiveness,
Mhm.
past the forgiveness into an acquaintance, and past the acquaintance into a distant memory. And the reason why I say that is because first I was angry, so
Of
angry.
course.
And that was eating my own, I was eating my own poison, hoping the other person would die. Then I had to go into forgiveness. But that wasn't enough
How difficult was that?
because, oh, very, very difficult. I had to have a lot of conversations. I had some great coaches that helped me get past that. And I had to go into forgiveness. But then I had to go into a mode of acquaintance where it was like I just mentally and physically, it was like I met somebody on the street. I had to get to that point where there's no memory, there's no ties, there's no anger, feeling, emotions. It's just an acquaintance. Why would I get upset at somebody I
Exactly.
just met on the street? I
Mhm.
needed to get to that point of separation. And then beyond that, it was time to let that go. And so I've been able to get to a part where I think about it now. It's an old movie that I saw once. It's an old record I heard once. It's a memory. And that's all it is. It has no emotional connection. It has no physical connection. It's just this old memory.
You know, from a spiritual perspective, everything happens for a reason and to teach us a lesson, even the most powerful, painful lessons. So if you look at from this angle, what would you say was her mission and what was a lesson for you to learn through her and through what she made you go through?
I love you for that answer because I'm learning.
Mhm.
That's what's helped me get past a lot of the stuff in my life
Mhm.
is to ask that question, what did I learn?
Mhm.
What did I learn? And when I want to complain and gripe and blame or shame or justify, that question, what did I learn, takes me away from all of that.
I think what I'm hearing from just listening to you is that that taught you in a way, correct me if I'm wrong, to open your heart and to forgive her despite all the everything she did to you. And that's a powerful thing for you to come to that realization,
Yeah.
to forgive someone that did you so bad, that put you in hell, not just for 30 days, which was the culmination, but I mean, the past, I don't know how long it took from the moment you guys divorced until all the legal battles and all and all,
7 years.
oh, yeah. So 7 years of hell plus 30 days on the
Mhm,
icing on the cake, so to speak.
mhm.
For you to
I think the
forgive
lesson,
to forgive someone that did
yeah,
so bad to you, that's phenomenal.
but it went beyond that.
Mhm.
I was able to forgive her. I won't forget, but I forgave her. But that
Yes.
wasn't the final lesson. The final lesson was I'm responsible.
Oh, yes.
That was the hardest thing for me to understand, that everything that happened, I'm responsible for. It doesn't matter what anybody did to me or did against me. Everything in my life, I'm responsible for that. And that was the hardest lesson for me to learn in my life, to stop blaming everybody. Everything that happened is my responsibility. I had a part in that somehow.
Yes.
And then if I have the part in that somehow, then I can choose what to do with it. And now it's not about them. It's about me. So yeah, you had all this trauma in your life, Brian, things that happened. You were responsible for that. Take that responsibility, and what will you do with it? What did you learn?
Okay. Did that in any way, shape, or form, your horrible experience with that woman, in any way affect your capacity to trust women again and to be able to have a normal relationship with another woman again, or how difficult that was?
Hmm. Yeah, I think
Did you at any time in your life, I mean, some guys were really badly done from that moment on. They don't want to have any relationship. They just want to abuse and take advantage of women, not by beating them, but by just sleeping around and not committing and just, just not being available.
yeah, I think guys that do that
Mhm.
are it there's something deep in them that hasn't been healed. If they want to be that way, if they want to be selfish, if they want to be angry, if they want to treat that person, there's something down deep inside they haven't dealt with yet, and that goes way beyond the women. Because if you're reacting to a situation like that and you begin to treat other people like that, it's not about
Sure.
them. It's about you
Absolutely.
running away from you.
Totally.
I think if I think about it, it did have an effect on me because well, I was given this gift of this beautiful woman in my life, and she was there in my life as I was going through this. But
Okay.
years after that, we had a very difficult time, and I was trying to save myself, protect myself. I was trying to get what I needed and what I wanted in life, and it was a lot about me. And if I'm thinking back, I probably had the viewpoint that I deserve for life to be better. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to get what I want in a very selfish way, not thinking about other people. And I had some hard lessons to learn. And thank God that she really, really loved me and forgave me for the lessons I was learning, sometimes at her expense. And and she came in my life as a constant reflection of what's possible. And so many times I didn't get it right, and it caused us to have difficult times, very difficult times in our relationship, and I didn't think we were going to make it. And I began to, maybe just a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, really come into an understanding of how responsible I am for everything that's going on in my life. And so I quit blaming her, that the problem in the relationship was her, and she wasn't this way, she wasn't that way, and that was not fair at all. And when I finally took responsibility again, that if things aren't working in life, that's on me. It's not on anybody else. Then I knew what I needed to start working on. And as I started working on the real problem, our relationship started changing because she saw a different Brian show up. And so I think in a way I didn't even, it's like things can happen to you so deeply, so quickly, that your mind and your body memorizes them, and it takes such a long time to unmemorize those things.
Oh, yes.
You may not even know it. And so I could be bitter that, damn, this thing happened to me, this isn't fair, and I hate these other people. But if I choose to look at my life this way, that I was taken to school and I was taught a lesson that may take me a while to learn from it, but it's a part of a better life for me. It's a part of blessings. It's a part of a plan, even though I don't understand it. That was the hard thing to understand, because I kept wanting to fix it. God, guys, we want to fix everything. I kept wanting to fix this and make this better. And God, maybe I can be at peace, and maybe I can make it in life, and maybe I can have other people be proud of what I'm doing. All these kind of limiting things I wanted to try and achieve in my life.
Did you get into to help you get that golden result? Did you get into meditation, reading,
Let's
or get
see.
into some groups to really
I,
help
s-
you?
I started to connect with people that I trusted.
Mhm.
And then when the student is ready, the teacher will appear is so
Perfect.
very true.
Mhm.
I held on to that and I said, okay, I'm ready. Who is going to help me overcome this? And coaches showed up, friends showed up, and people showed up because I was willing to learn. And I think that's what started it. And I had people show up and keep showing up in my life and just keep appearing. Maybe it was for a short while, maybe it's for a 10-month period, but circumstances kept showing up in my life that gave me the environment to look at who I am, to look at what I think, and to look at who I was choosing to be and make simple compass directions, simple course corrections in my life for things to try to get better. I had no idea where it was going to go. I think the one thing that changed the trajectory, and I'm trying to think of that because from that situation, I think it was about 2 years later, I traveled down to Costa Rica. So I had nothing in my life, and I went from absolutely nothing to within a couple of years, I'm traveling down to Costa Rica that was paid for by somebody else. That's, and I realize that now, that's not a small thing. I didn't have a job. I didn't have it. I traveled down to Costa Rica, my first international travel ever, and somebody else paid for it.
Oh.
Yeah. And so what was it that happened that I was able to believe that much in myself and believe of what I could create? I think it was knowing, I think it was that the people that I formed relationships with, the people that I trusted, were a constant reflection of what was possible. I could not see what was possible for Bryan Tarr. I couldn't. But what I did know was I needed to trust people. And so I gathered people around that I could trust. And when I trusted these people, they gave me a reflection of who I was being. And I had no idea that I was creating such a great change in my life. I think in a way, I was so driven that if that situation happened in my life that's so traumatic, it was never, ever, ever going to happen again. And I am going to do everything within my willpower and power to change that course in my life, not just to be better, but to be great. Even I think it might even border on vengeance. I'm going to show you. I'm going to make things so great that you're going to be so sorry you did that to me. Not very effective in the long term,
Oh.
but I think that sparked something in me that I knew things could be better. And so I had a constant yearning for elevating and elevating and elevating. And it became an obsession because I saw that number one, one of the things I began to do was I had this method that I had learned before of balancing rocks and using breath work. And I had created that by accident. And it was just an artistic expression. And then somebody saw it and said, can you teach me how to do that? Now, I didn't know how to teach it. And so I had taught a few people before that time how to do this practice. So once I was free again, I knew that that was in me to teach that. And so I found ways to teach other people that method of instant meditation using rocks and breath work. And it was me expressing myself and giving that to other people. That's all I wanted to do, is give to somebody else and love them. But when I did, I didn't realize that that significant training would shift them and teach them something. And I had no choice but to admit that that teaching came from me. There was something in here that did that. And I became really, really curious, like, what else can I do with this? And the thing that came to mind was service. I was being of service. So I don't remember the day and the time of the person that helped me to realize that, but it was somebody else that said, you're being of service. Where else can you be of service? And I became curious. So when I started talking to somebody, there was something they were going through that was easy for me. And I said, can I help you with that? Please, I would love it if you could help me with that. And so I served them well. And so I served another person well. And then I served another person well that became part of the business. And they paid me for the service that I was doing there. So I became obsessed with serving people with what was between this brain. And that, I think, the trusting people and seeking counsel that I could trust put me on the path to changing whatever had happened and whatever brought me to that situation, and constantly seeking to serve other people greatly taught me the lessons I needed to learn of who I was, and reminding me who Bryan Tarr was, because I'd completely forgotten.
Speaking of that, of service, and you're going through the prison system for 30 days, and now you, from what I understand, you want to be of service and helping them with the breath work and meditation, all that. Has it ever crossed your mind that, hey, maybe I could approach the prison system and go and give classes to the actual inmates to help them calm down their minds? Because you know better than anyone, you've been in the shoes, what it's like to be there, and you would have loved. I can imagine having a meditation or breath work as part of your maybe 1 hour a week that you add for whatever leisure, whatever they call it. But I know they have Bible studies and other things. What if there was an extra hour that teaches these people how to meditate, control their mind?
Funny you should mention that. At first, I thought I knew that when people get out, there was nothing that would help them.
Mhm.
And so I began to inquire. The paperwork and the
Oh, yeah.
challenges to create something like that are unsurmountable.
Yes,
I found
agree.
out why nobody does it. It is so difficult. And that environment is so controlled intentionally that it's like if you went into somebody's home and you had dinner and you wanted to do the dishes, let's just use that analogy for an example. You're going to grab the soap and you're going to do the dishes. It's not brain work. And they just let you do the dishes and you can serve them. You come into there and they said, okay, this is where we're going to eat dinner. We're going to eat dinner at that place. That's your place right there. Now see that fork you're going to use halfway through the meal, but then you're going to stop and you're going to use this other fork halfway through the meal. And I understand if you don't want to eat this way, you can kindly leave out the door. Like, okay, let me get through eating the dinner this way. I'm going to do the dishes for you. Excellent. Now, the way that you're going to do the dishes is at first, you're going to set all the dishes over there to the left-hand side. Then you're going to set the soap over to the right-hand side, but don't grab the drying towel yet, because you need to come and ask permission from me from the drying towel, and I will give you the drying towel, and you can begin to dry the drying towel. Now, when you suds the dishes, don't clean them. You need to come to me and ask me if it's okay to wash the dishes. When you're finished washing the dishes, don't put them away, because when you're done putting them away, I need to see that every dish that you're putting there is done in the exact same. So that's how we're going to wash the dishes. Are you okay with that? If not, there's the door. That's how controlled that environment is. So you can save them, you can help them, but it is so controlled that it prevents that intimate and that connection from happening.
Why do you think they keep it that way? Because they know it's not effective, it's not working. If you want to help these people, need to change that. It's not be that rigid.
It's an asset allocation. Everybody that's in there is an asset, and they want to control that environment so they can control the outcome. And they allow those programs in for publicity. They allow those programs in so they're helping helping the inmates. And by divine intervention, some people are helped through that. And I've seen that. And I had that question in my mind, and I was sitting at a coffee shop talking to this person, talking about a rock yoga, and he just bounced rocks the other day, and we're having a fun conversation. And somehow he said, Here's a yoga program that I really love. It's called Yoga for Inmates.
Actually,
Like,
I met someone. I swear to you, I had a guy on my podcast. He did exactly that. He
Phil
taught
Brown.
yoga. No, Anthony Carter. He's from New York,
Okay,
but he moved to
cool.
San Francisco, I guess, out west, and he was doing exactly that.
Yeah. And so here I'm talking to this guy who did yoga for inmates. And
Wow.
we had a great conversation. The and we lost contact because the level of organization that it needed, he wasn't able to maintain with. He could show up and he could teach this, but to have other people help it, it was just too difficult. You need specific training, specific certification, and months of this, and it was difficult. It was just too difficult. And he said, when you can afford to pay for the training that you need, then maybe you can help us out. That just prevented me from doing that. So things did show up, and it may be possible someday. But when I saw that the path to do that was just so difficult, part of me said, I'm not going to let that stop me.
Is there any way
There's a way.
you can, for example, approach whatever local government and pitch it to them, and through their sponsoring and blessings, then they can introduce you to the prison system, and you can go and do whatever work you want to
That
do to
might be
stress.
possible.
Yeah.
I think for a reason that wasn't part of my path,
Mm,
because if it was, it would have simply come available.
mm,
There would have been a route there,
yes.
even though there was this tough navigation. If it was meant to be in my life, there would have been a shortcut right through it. And I've seen that multiple times. So I said, what do I do with this? What do I do with this knowledge? And I think, and we've had this conversation, I think that's why I've been driven to help men to understand how to be better men in life. Because if you know how to be a man in life, then when you make a mistake and you are in that environment, the knowledge you have will get you through the other side. And if you're being a man in life and you understand your self responsibility, controlling your thoughts and managing that and controlling and taking responsibility, you're going to teach that to somebody else who may be younger and on their way to being incarcerated. But if they knew, like, there was a gentleman in there that I know that we connected with, and I know I coached him with just the knowledge in my head. And even though he went back in, I choose to believe that there is a truth of when we met that will never ever be forgotten in his life. And he knows he messed up and he messed up again, but he remembers that time with Bryan Tarr, and Bryan Tarr believed in him, and Bryan Tarr reminded him of what he was worthwhile. And he can't when something is true, it'll stand the test of time. So I'm just, asking that the experience that I had from that in some way, if it's a part of my path, that I'm able to be of an influence to either help people from going into that and making that bad choice, or if they do, being able to recover and not repeat back into the sequence.
Beautiful. Let's go back to as soon as you just left the prison system. I remember from talking with Randy that once he left, every week he had to report to the local sheriff office, and anytime he wanted to go to a place with public, like for example the schools or even at the mall or attend a sporting event, he had to get a permission authorization. Did you have to go to any of that paperwork
No,
and all of that?
no, because the main difference is that I was in jail for
Uh-huh.
that time. And when you're incarcerated for, I think, more than 6 months, you're put into the prison system. So
Oh,
it's like, so that's the terminology that they
so there
use.
is a difference
S-
between a prison and jail. I
in
thought they
jail,
were pretty much the same thing.
they're part of the same system,
Okay.
but think of it like you go into, like, you take your child to daycare,
I'm more
and that's just for the
advanced.
day, and that's
Hmm.
for the facility. But now you need your child to stay in a learning situation for the next 3 weeks. Well, that's a whole nother thing.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay.
and even though it might be part of the system, it's a whole nother system.
Mm.
And so when you're in there for a longer period of time, then then they know that you're going to be changed. They
Oh,
they they
yes.
can they know you're going to be changed, and you're going to be a the word I'm thinking of is You're going to be not a challenge, but
Special threat,
thank you. You're going to be a
ticking,
threat.
a ticking bomb that could explode at any moment.
Yeah, because your brain after 6 months starts to change and adapt. And that adaptation is a ticking bomb that's waiting to go off.
Just to
But
be
they're not going to
triggered.
provide you they're going to
Mhm.
provide you the counseling. They're not going to provide you the psychiatric help. They're not going to provide the training that you need, but they know it's going to go off. So that's why he had to report back, because they needed a way to check in. And now that I've been through that, it's not only to check to make sure that he's going to be okay and safe, but if he violates it, back in he goes. So the asset returns back. And that's
Amazing
the way
how
to
they
keep him
call.
track.
Amazing how they call the inmates assets. Wow.
Yeah, nobody calls them that, but that's what they are. That's what they are. Everything is. So once you're brought into the system, then you're branded and treated in such a way that you adhere to the system, and that you're broken mentally, like in boot camp, but much worse. And then even if you're in jail for a short time, that we're not talking overnight, but even in that, your tendency to go back increases with every month that you're in there. And so they know that. And like I said, when I was in there in the previous podcast, your food is tainted. You're not in a safe environment. There's no happy camp. There's no, we hope you're going to do well. We want you to do well, and we want you to graduate this program. There's none of that.
They
There's
don't even
none of
allow
that.
you guys to be happy, because I remember whenever you guys were getting along and having good time, they would come and create chaos.
Yeah. I'm like, why did that raid happen? Like,
Yeah.
wait, we were getting along, we were laughing, and we had fellowship, and they came in and changed that. So I didn't have to report back because my time was short, but that's probably why Randy had to report back, because they wanted to make sure that that if he relapsed, that they would stay in touch with him.
No, it's really sad, because it is absolutely true that the system is completely broken. It needs to be changed. But what is the government? Maybe I'm being a utopic here. What is the government waiting to change it? Because they know it's broken.
It's a profit system.
So, so,
It's a profit
so
system.
is it
Yeah.
because of that? Because each time someone gets into the system, they get subventions from the government. That's why they call it an asset.
That's why I call it an asset, and some of the guys that were in there called it an asset, because the minute that you're in, you need to pay the sheriffs. You need to provide the food. You need to provide the housing,
Salaries and all. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You need to provide the salaries, and then the food keeps going. And so this money keeps coming in and feeding the system, and it
Mm.
doesn't benefit the individual inmates, but it benefits the system. So it keeps it going, and it keeps it going, and it keeps it going. I mean, back in the day, I can imagine when there was justice, somebody did something wrong and they paid for it, but that doesn't exist anymore. Once you're in there, you can be broken, and you're going to go back into it again. So
That's a
that's
very, I can see now a parallel between the prison system and to some extent even the medical system, because they're not in the business of curing us. They're in the business of keeping you
yeah,
sick.
yeah. And some people, I could get real bitter, and I
Oh
could
yes.
look at that, and I'm going to change that system. I'm going to change that system. But wait, I would try to be changing a system that I don't have the income, and I
Mhm.
don't have the clout to do it.
Yes.
And it's just me. But what can I do? I can reach individual human beings before they get on that path, because
Oh
the
yes.
the jail and the prison system is the last line of telling you need to get your shit straight, telling you that you're acting in a way that is harmful to society. And it's a last checkup from the neck up. And if you get it, you get it. If you don't, well, welcome to your new home that you're going to come back to. So
Yeah.
if in some way I can touch a life that would begin to go down that road, then that's what I can do. And
What are you
that's the
doing?
power that I have to do.
Are you doing anything to that effect? Are you going and doing speeches at maybe schools, at juvenile centers, or anything to prevent these up and coming guys to not to go down that path?
Until actually, until you and I had that podcast, that, and Randy and I were talking about this when we spoke the other day. Here's the trauma I went through, and here's my life. This is just the thing I went through, and this is my life, and I'm getting on with my life, and I'm moving. But keep that in the back. Let's not talk about that. And until recently, you and Randy and other people have told me, Bryan, they're one and
The
the same.
gift, the gift. This is your
There
maybe.
was something happened to you that made you so that you could. And I think from rediscovering who I am, believing in myself again, being responsible for my life again, learning to be a man, all of this hard work that I did inside to be who I am today, life was just waiting for the moment when it's going to weave them together. And then it's going to provide that path. So I was speaking to a friend of mine about our conversation and how you brought up so many details that I had hidden before. And that's what I mean, that when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And we were having a conversation. He said, hold on a second. He said, tell me the things you overcame. And we began to talk about that. And he wrote them down on a whiteboard. And he said, I got it, Bryan. I see this, and this is a gift I have, but you don't see it. He said that in your life, when you were 3, your dad passed away and was taken out of your life. And you had to learn to rebuild your life. And then you had an evil stepfather. And that was circumstance. And then you had this divorce. Now, before that, you had a corporate espionage, which caused you to lose your job and your income. Then you had the divorce. Then it just got worse. And then you were put in jail for a while. And these things constantly taught you to rebuild. They gave you a skill set of strength and courage and boldness that you now bring into your business to help other people. And you show up in other people's lives to help them rebuild. You are a master rebuilder. And this is the gift you were given to then go and follow with your life. So this makes sense why you're really good at leading people, at speaking, at leading different groups, at being passionate about helping other people. It's from these. So I'm just now this year, I knew this year was going to be an important critical year for me, but I didn't know how.
Yeah,
The gift is starting to be woven into who I am and who I'm being.
absolutely. Let's talk about that
And
in a moment. But now
it's
let's
2016. How many years ago was that?
7, 16, 4 and 2, 6 years.
6 years ago. And I'm
Yeah.
just beginning to weave the gift into what my life is.
Wow. Wow. Well, as we say in French, better late than never.
Exactly.
Now let's get back to the moment that after returning back to normal civilian life. How did you build yourself back up? Was it easy? I mean, how challenging was it to get back on your feet with getting a job, getting your own place, and walk us through all the crap that you went
Yeah.
through to get back on
I
your feet?
had to move back in with my parents. For me, it was the most embarrassing thing.
Mhm.
That's interesting. I'd forgotten about that. It was the most embarrassing thing. I got to move back in with my parents.
Were your
Great.
parent were your parents living in the same town, the same state as you, or a different
Yeah.
location? Okay.
They were living here in San Diego,
Okay.
and they visited me at every chance they could get. So they went through this with me. So I had no place to go. I had no job. So I moved back with my parents. And that I was angry about for a while. Here I am, a grown man, moving back in with my parents. How embarrassing. I didn't tell that to anybody. I just had this place I was living in here in La Mesa, California. It's just where I was living, but I kept it so secret that I was living with my parents. It was just this big secret because I was shameful about it. Again, shame showed up.
I guess you were blessed that you had parents to support you through this because,
Huge,
oh
huge.
yeah,
If I didn't, I'm thankful for them to this day, because if I didn't, I would have been on the street. I would have been figuring it out. I would have been sleeping on a bench. I would have been looking up a friend going, can I stay on your couch for a while? As I'm trying to figure it out. I would have figured it out, that it would have been very, very difficult. So I'm thankful that I had a safe place to go. I had
Oh,
food.
yes.
I had, they were able, they said, whatever we got to do, you're going to be okay.
Well,
One of the greatest blessings in my life is to have them in my life and to be able to help me out.
certainly. Prior to
Yeah.
going to jail, were you working at a job or did you have your own business?
I had my own business for several years and I struggled at that.
Mhm.
And I just couldn't find the right answers to make it work. But I happened to take part in a job that's an interesting fact. I didn't thought about that. The connections that we make and the level of that we make of connections are more powerful than we can understand.
Totally.
I had just gotten a job with a startup in San Diego, and we were doing great work. We were doing really great work, and they were paying me very well. And then this happened,
So how
and
did
I
that?
said,
Mm.
I said, I'm sorry. I think I just I disappeared.
Of course, you don't
I
have
was
time to let them know, guys, I have to take some time off. Of course, you just one
Nope.
day you left the office, the next day you were never not to be seen.
It was a Friday.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I said, hey guys, I'm not going to be here Friday. I got a court case I got to go to. And then come Monday, they said, where's Bryan? And they knew my parents. The guy that I worked with in the startup was a friend of mine, and he knew my parents. And he's like, where's Bryan? He's supposed to be showing up to work. I said, yeah, on Friday he was incarcerated. And so that's all I knew of that communication. And so I'm like, my job's gone.
So they,
Great,
they,
great
they,
job.
they didn't take you back when you were back.
He said, I understand, but we're gonna have to find somebody else to help us out.
Okay.
I'm like, great, great. So that a wonderful job that I achieved, good pay,
Sure.
gone, just
So
gone.
as far as your business is concerned, did you have any commitments? I'm sure you did to your existing clients that were stopped and affected as a result of you being taken away?
Um, I think interestingly enough, that business with the startup took up all my time.
Okay.
Yeah. So the business that I had outside of the startup was very, very little and very, very casual. So if there was a connection, if there was some work to do, we might have connected, but there wasn't any strings that were cut,
Mhm.
interestingly enough. But my I remember my mom had sent me an email, said that they understand, but they're going to have to find somebody else to help them out. I'm like, great, great.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to go back to. So I remember that occupation wise, when I got back out, now I said that the friend of mine was working for them. So I said, hey, I want you to know I'm not angry at you. I'm not upset at you. You guys had to do what you had to do. I get it. I get it. So I really appreciate you being there for me. I appreciate the opportunity. We're still friends, aren't we? He said, yeah, we're still friends. And he said, and that we had to get somebody to come on in, but we've been holding something for you.
Wow.
I said, what? He said, do you want to come still do you want to come still work with
Wow.
us? It's going to be a limited capacity, but if you want to still come work with us, we'd like to have you. That was amazing. Who
Sure.
I was for those people, they said, he told me, oh, I forgot about this. He said that they had a meeting that Monday, and the owner said, people, what are we going to do? Bryan was an important part of our team. What are we going to do? And everybody said, we can't let him down.
Beautiful. I
What
love
do we
that.
got to do until Bryan comes back?
Mhm.
I didn't know about that till later.
Wow.
I think that I forgot about that. I think that's one of the things that told me that who I was stronger than the circumstance that I went through. I had been some kind of influence to these people, so much so that they missed me on their team and they wanted me to be okay. And they were waiting for me to come back.
That's a blessing indeed. Wow.
Yeah. It
See,
was, and that lasted for about 2 or 3 months until the business owner changed his mind and killed the whole business, as startups goes. But
yeah,
everything for a rhyme and a reason. For a moment, maybe for a few months, I was reminded that I can be something greater than the circumstance that happened to me.
yeah, that's huge because one of the most difficult challenges that people that come back to civilian life that face is that of getting a job because nobody wants to hire someone that's been in a jail, regardless of what it may have been. And
Mhm.
that's very sad because these people need, a second chance, but people are not there. So after that,
Hmm.
that
You're
episode, that
you're reminding me of something.
go ahead.
I had that same thought. You know, who's going to want to hire me? Now I have something
Yeah,
on my record. Great. Hey,
yeah,
Brian, want to help you? Have you had any jail time?
yeah. You can
Yes.
hide that.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, we need to work into that. And so
see
I
you.
was
Yeah.
again filled with shame. But I had talked to somebody and they said, I help people with resumes who have been incarcerated.
Wow.
I said, so what do you do? And we had a chat. They showed me leadership, internal leadership. They said, you don't hide it. You're like, this was my time and this is why I was incarcerated. And from that, I learned this and I became a leader and I became a communicator and I had all of these skills which you want for your company.
Absolutely,
They
because that's the
they
ultimate form of survival and leadership to be in jail, just to get out of that. That's the ultimate boot camp.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So they said, why look at it negative? It
Yeah.
happened. And what did you learn from it? And share that as you're communicating with people.
Mhm.
So I began to do that. If it came up, I'm like, yes, I was. And there were some wonderful things that I learned that are going to be a benefit for me working with you. And so again, when the student's ready, the teacher shows up. I happen to connect with that person who told me the information that I needed to take the next thing. It's like the hero's journey.
Oh
You know,
yes,
you
big
face
time.
the challenge and then somebody comes along and gives you the information you need to be able to overcome it. And that started happening. It just points to everything being divine and being planned in my life, that as long as I took action, then what I needed came into my life to help me with the next part and with the next part.
Wow. And then after that chapter with that startup was over, was it how difficult was it for you to either get another job or start your own business? Because Randy, from my conversation, he couldn't get a job, so he had to start his own
Yeah,
business to survive.
exactly. Exactly. That's how I
Mhm.
started service. Because as I said, no, nobody's going to want to hire me. Why, when you can hire somebody who hasn't had a record, you're going to hire them. And it's going to be very, very difficult. But what I can do is communicate with people. I knew I could do that. And I knew I could serve them in some way and they'd pay me for it. So I began to get some income by helping people with their technology when they couldn't figure it out. And then that's what led me, I think, um, I think that's what led me to being more of an entrepreneur. Shame, I guess looking at it, shame helped me to be a really great entrepreneur because I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. So I didn't want to go look for a job. And then I knew that if I had a job, it was reportable. And
Mhm.
I was so afraid of the attorney coming back and getting and attacking me again that I didn't want my income to be reported.
Oh yeah, okay.
I wanted to keep it controlled.
Mhm. So
So that's when
speaking,
I learned. Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's when I learned what it
Okay,
takes to be an entrepreneur. I think I was very, very driven because I was very, very scared.
indeed. So speaking of shame, did you at any time consider relocating to a different city to start fresh so nobody knows you and starting with a blank slate?
What interesting question. I love that.
'Cause-
No, I
Mhm.
hadn't because my survival was living with my parents
Yes, indeed. Mhm.
and didn't have the job, didn't have the income.
Mhm.
And in the path of my life, I didn't have the confidence in myself. I didn't have the bravery to go and try something new. I had never taken that on before in my life. That's part of the
Sure.
reason that I had some challenges is I got to that point because there were some challenges that I had in life, some lessons I hadn't learned. So it never dawned on me just to pick up and go start in a new city, because I had the parents there here. I had a woman who loved me no matter what I went through. And those things gave me a foundation. And I had made some relationships here in San Diego and some great friends who were my support system. So I think that's why I never thought about it, is my support system that was helping me get through day by day was here locally.
Yeah, support system is huge, especially in such a time that you just went through. That's the ultimate. Absolutely. Wow. And
Yeah.
then the business you started, what was that business?
It was, I knew I was good at technology.
Mm.
Technology to me is super simple. It's easy. It's fun for me. And I began to discover that I would be in a conversation with somebody and they'd say, yeah, I'm working on my website, but I just can't quite get it to do that. Like, hey, heard you talking about a website. You having some problems with it? You know, I'm pretty smart on this stuff. I bet I could help you out. Could you? I think so. And I'd help him out. Great. How much do we owe you? 60 bucks. Sure. Here you go. Oh, that worked. And so I began to listen for people having challenges that I could solve. And that's what that started. And then I'd ask more people and I'd ask more people. And I was just trying to gain some money. So I'm like, what kind of challenges are you going through that I know I can solve? And I'd be glad to do it for you. And then that's what got me on the road of really owning a business, or really having a way of serving people and then getting income from that. And so that's when that started. And then I think I called myself Tech Freedom for a while. You know, it's going to give you the technology freedom that you want. And then that, by serving people, introduced me to a different group of people that were having needs. And then I got a hold of other business owners who gave me some more advice and started to teach me some things. And I became a student of business pretty quickly.
So did you still have to pay spousal support to your ex upon your return,
Yeah.
despite you not barely making any money and all that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That didn't matter. I think that's the other thing that driven me, because they had, there was a court order prior to being incarcerated where I had to pay, one second, where I had to pay the spousal support. So there was a court order already in place that said that I had to pay spousal support every month.
How
So
long?
even, this is the fun part, because it was a long-term marriage till she dies, till I die, or till she gets married.
So basically a few months for
So,
life.
yep, yep. But there is, I've been speaking with a lawyer this last year, and there is a possibility that we can erase that. So I'm looking into that,
Big time,
because I don't
yes.
want, yeah, but as soon as I was out, it started again. So I had to
Wow.
figure out how I was going to pay this $500 every month, even though I didn't have a job and didn't have income. Talk about feet to the fire. So I think when I was going through it, that was just one of the most difficult things, is that you had something coming up that you had no control over, but you had to keep paying it. And so you had to figure it out, and you better figure it out. And so I had to become, I think, like I said, when my dad had passed away, I had learned that I had to become very ingenious and very resourceful. And so again, I had to become ingenious and resourceful on how to make that happen,
Because
because it was going to happen.
if you're not able to make that payment, they put you back in the can, right?
If I wasn't able to make that payment,
Yes.
it would open the door one more time for that
Ah,
prosecuting attorney to come after me. And it would give him evidence. It would give him reason to start getting involved in my life and making me miserable once again. So I
wow.
know that as no matter whatever I have to do, that has to be paid, because I think to this day, he's still waiting. It's very, very simple. He's waiting for that moment that I make a mistake, and then he'll come right back in.
Wow.
So it's kind of like the wolf at your door,
Or
and
like
you can't see
the
him.
sword of Damocles just hanging over your head. Just hanging.
Yeah, yeah. Or even, and I'm working on that. It's even like there's a hot breath
Oh
on the
yeah.
back of your neck, and you turn around and nobody's there. Okay, maybe I was thinking of something, and then you feel that hot breath, and you turn around, and it's always there. So every month, that breath is on me,
Yeah.
and that motivates me. And someday I'm going to get rid of that. So
Oh,
yeah,
hopefully, yes.
I had to figure it out. I had to
Oh
figure it out.
yes. Oh yes.
That was one of the most humiliating things, because I had to ask for help. I had to figure it out. I had to ask for favors. And
Yeah,
that's
I can
humiliating.
imagine.
As
Yes.
an adult male, I'm having to ask for favors.
Especially someone that was before that fully, independent, you own money, you own business, you own work, and all of a sudden you're back at square zero, not even square one, square zero. Absolutely. I can imagine.
Yeah,
Wow.
you've got, and that was another thing I had to get over, because I was an adult male
Mm-hmm.
starting at zero again. Zero, completely resetting my life. That I was embarrassed. I was ashamed of it. I didn't really want to tell anybody about it. And I had to get over that. I had to get over that. That was hard. I was angry, by this time in my life, I should have this, I should have that, I should have that. And again, through the trusted friends that I had, the support, they helped me to realize that I was lying to myself. I was living somebody else's dream of what I should have been.
So at what point in your life did you come up to and you realize enough of that, I need to share that with the world, and that's when you decided to
Mm.
open up on my podcast and eventually on books, your own book? Did you say that? You know what? Screw that. My story needs to be shared. My lessons need to be,
Mm.
you
It
know.
didn't it didn't happen on my own.
Mhm.
It didn't happen on my own. I remember that somebody invited me to go listen to a speaker who talked about the time that he was homeless and how he rebuilt his life.
Mm.
Wonderful man, wonderful speaker. And it was an intimate setting, so you could go and talk to the speaker. And so afterwards, I heard him say something that my healing didn't begin until I started telling my story. And I didn't get it. And it's, like when somebody tells you something and it doesn't make sense, you can't unanswer that question. It just keeps playing in your mind. I said, "Excuse me, my name is Bryan. And you said something that I don't understand, but I want to understand. Do you have a minute?" He's like, "Sure, absolutely." I said, "You said that your healing didn't begin until you told your story. I don't get that. That doesn't make sense." He's like, "Well, I need to ask you a question. Why is that important to you?" I'm like, "Uh-oh." Because I had this situation in my life that I just don't tell people about. He said, "Come over here. We're not in public anymore. What are you afraid to tell people?" I'm like, "Oh man." And I said, "Okay." And with emotions and with tears, I told him what's going on. He says, "I get it." He says, "You know how I felt. Why don't you tell anybody about it?" "No way. They'll judge me, criticize me. This is humiliating." He said, "What if that wasn't true?" I'm like,
Yes.
"What are you talking about?"
Powerful.
And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "You're telling me. How do you feel?" And I sat
Breathe.
there and
Liberate it. Yes.
I feel, and he said, "Better?" Like, yeah. He said, "If you really want to understand the power of this, within 1 week, go tell another person." I'm like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? But it was the answer I needed. And I made a commitment to him. So I had a trusted friend. I said, that time I was just gone for a little while? Yeah, I need to tell you about that. But I need to tell you in confidence. I was like, okay. So I told him, and I was ready for, judgment, criticism, and the friendship. And their response was, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I would have been there for you. Is there anything I can do to help you?"
Wow.
And then I thought, okay, I need to share the story more and more and more. Still, I was hesitant. When I thought I was healed, just stop sharing the story. But the gift would not be kept quiet. And so the people asked again and people asked again. And this led me to our conversation because the time is right because of the work that I've been doing. And you showed me the possibility that this is a gift that needs to be given to other people. And there's something more powerful in it. And even when you said that, I didn't get it until I talked to some of my friends about that. And they said, yeah, I think he's very, very correct. How can we help you do that?
Wow. So what made you trust me to open your heart and share this very painful event of your life with me and not with any of the other billion other podcasters?
I think I've been in conversations and it was about who Bryan was, what I'm doing, what my business is, all this life. Don't talk about that. And some people were curious, but they were my friends and it was safe. Right? It was safe. And in talking with you in our first conversation, you struck me as somebody that I could be safe with, but that's not where it started. You were genuinely curious about what happened. I mentioned, and this is the way I did it. I said in 2016, something happened in my life and everything was taken away from me. And when it was, I learned how to recover. Never talking about what happened. But your genuine curiosity, and you set a space where I could feel trusted. I began to share more about that. And all of a sudden, I'm telling you facts that I didn't realize I was sharing with you. And I thought, okay, well, I'm still safe because we're not talking about that. We're just kind of mentioning it. And then you invited me back the last episode to really dive into it.
Because I remember in the first episode, you did drop some hints of being, in prison, but out of respect, and also I didn't know how you would react. I didn't probe on the podcast, and that's why I asked you when we're off air. Is it okay for you? Are you open to come back for a second episode? We're going to talk strictly about that, and that's when you said yes. I was really,
Yeah. And
really.
I think that's what happened is because you were the right person at the right time, the right place, divinely guided. Because I thought, you know what? We're going to talk about this. I bet there's going to be some interesting conversations about this. That was all. I was just curious. But as I began to tell the story, you had genuine curiosity and asked me to put pieces together that I had forgotten about. And you were stringing together with me the story. And all of a sudden, I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop sharing it. I couldn't stop getting into it. I had to talk to you more about it.
Mhm.
And I had no idea where the conversation was going. I had no idea. You were just asking me for some details because there was love there was concern there was trust there was leadership that you had. And that allowed me to open up like a way I never had before. And my brain kicked in to a space where you got it out, Bryan. You told the story. But you connected that there is a gift. You believed in me. Somebody said this before once, and I love it. You allowed me to borrow your belief in me until I could believe in myself more. So
Powerful.
you said there's a gift and there's a book and there's a
Two
mission
books.
behind that gift.
Yes, yes.
And my brain goes, oh, he's got to be joking. This can't be true. Hey, so and so, I got to talk to you about this. Do you know what? I was just on a podcast and you know what I talked about? And you know what this guy said? It just doesn't make sense.
Wow.
And my friend who I trust looked at me and he said, yeah, he's right. And my brain, it clicked. Who you were clicked with what you shared, clicked with what you said, clicked with what he said to combine an undeniable truth. And like I said earlier, when there's a truth, the truth stands a test of time. And I think somewhere, maybe driving home, I realized, Bryan, you have a responsibility now. You have a responsibility to do the work, to share what you went through with other people, not for you, but for them. And I love putting this together. A friend of mine was at a book signing and he invited me to go to the book signing. But before he was going to go to the book signing, he asked me to call him because he was having a challenge. I said, sure, not a problem. He said, I'm going to go to the book signing, but I don't know why I'm going. I can't really figure it out in my mind what I'm doing there. And from my heart, I said, well, what I can tell you is you're you're a leader, you care about other people, your program's helped a lot of people, and you see things in people that they don't see themselves, and you want them to see it so that they can make better. That's who I see in you. And he says, I got it. I'm going there because this is for them. I was thinking it was for me. Bryan, thank you. And when he said that, it reflected back, Bryan, this gift is not for you, it's for other people. And you now have a responsibility to do the work so that they can share the message.
That's powerful. That's exactly what I say all day long, my podcast. We all go through our fair share of painful, tragic, dark moments at the time. Sure, they hurt like a bitch, but then they happen for a reason, because they're meant to happen for us to grow, so we can get to our next phase of our evolution at the soul level. And then those become part of our story, they become our story. Then that story becomes our gift. Then that gift become our responsibility to share it. Because if you were only to grow from those painful moments and learn from it yourself, that's only 10% of the potential that you're gaining from. But if you share it, that's when the 90% of the whole purpose of what you went through. Just like you said perfectly, the fact that you spent 7 years of your life in a hellish battle and legal battles, and then 30 hellish days in jail. Sure, it was painful as hell. It ultimately was not for you. It was for you to take that lesson, become that story, then that gift, and then ultimately that responsibility to share it. Because by sharing it, you allow everyone around you, whether it's through your podcast, your book, speaking engagements, whatever you want, music, painting, whatever is natural for you to express and share, that you will help everyone else to grow from it. And just like a tide, elevate everyone else.
I think that's a beautiful statement, that what we went through and how we survived through it is a lesson for somebody else to give to them. And it becomes part of our soul purpose.
And is it not an ultimate example and proof that we are all connected? If you hurt someone, you're hurting yourself, because at the soul level, we're all connected. And if you do good to someone, you're doing good to yourself.
Yeah, it's like a golden thread that connects us all.
Yes.
And so there's a reason that happened, because that thread that was weaving is a part of other threads. And then that is what I'm feeling and noticing, is because once that thread is weaved, you have a responsibility. And if you don't respond to that, then these other threads keep moving and the tension becomes more and more. And when you don't listen to your soul's purpose, it will get louder and louder and louder.
More
And the
painful.
circumstances are harder and harder. And so I understand that that's where I took responsibility. I didn't listen to my soul's purpose. And it had to teach me in a very hard way to sit down and shut up and listen. It was almost as life had said, I've had enough. I've had enough. We're going to make you pay attention because you have work you're supposed to be doing. And it caught my attention.
Wow.
So that's why now that I'm hearing this, now that I'm understanding that there's a gift that needs to be given out there, I'm really adamant about incorporating that faster than life is going to catch up and remind me I need to do that. I don't want to pay that cost.
No, while listening to your powerful story, especially the last few statements, that deserves to be spread and recounted far and wide. That would be not only a book, but eventually a documentary and even bigger things. But also start a new podcast where you share not only your story, but invite other people that have gone through that same experience, so that together collectively you can share that. And then hopefully through a podcast, maybe you're not able to reach the people that currently in the prison system because of all the paperwork and all the bureaucracy. But if you can reach the person that either went through that or about to take their life in the wrong direction, if they listen, they hear to your message, and not only yours, but other people like Randy and other guys that have been through that, this would be a very powerful way for you to be of service.
And that begins to make sense,
Mhm.
because the purpose of sharing the story is their own healing.
Yes.
And the more that they share it, the more that they heal from it. And then that story heard by somebody else may help them out.
Bingo.
Okay.
Because this is the whole point for you to take the lesson, the gift you've learned the hard way, and then to magnify its beauty, to share it, not just be selfish and keep it for you, but to share it.
And that's what I love about life. And let me break this down in a matrix level, is that here we are having this conversation, and with you intuitively put some pieces together that I didn't see. And then I played them back about how that would work and the value that that would provide and why. And it became very, very clear. When that became clear and effortless, means that the support to do that is already waiting, When you have those answers and those solutions that are so simple that benefit others, then that means that the support to make that happen is waiting there for you. You don't need to figure it out by yourself. So I'm excited because we spoke those words, which means the support to be able to do that is out there, and they could be drinking coffee and going, whoa, I just had an idea. I think I need to reach out to Bryan. Within
Honestly,
days, it's probably going to happen.
I can see, if you were to start a podcast on that, I can see this blowing up and becoming viral within the next few weeks to a few months, because this is a very, very not only emotional and touchy, but very powerful message that we as a species, especially in North America, we need that, because the prison system is completely broken, and you unfortunately experienced that firsthand. And if you can now,
Incarcerated to freedom.
beautiful title for a podcast. We'll talk about that after the call to make that happen. But wow.
And the journey still continues. I think that's one of the most powerful things from that, is the journey still continues.
Just like
because I was put on a path by life that will never be completed until the day I die. So the more committed I get to living this path, the more that life's going to be more fulfilling for me.
Exactly.
And it'll never be, and this is something to learn, that from being in that broken system, you're changed forever, but not in a bad way. It's your choice what you're going to do with it. It's your choice, but you'll be changed forever. And that's a good thing.
That's powerful. Just like I was talking with Randy, he said, even though since he was a young boy, his life was all revolved around the game of basketball, whether as a player, as a coach, and he reached some of the highest level as a coach. And that was taken away from him in a very violent way that almost destroyed his soul, because that was his identity for 30, 40 years. And then that was taken away for a purpose, because he was not on the path that it was his mission and for this lifetime. But that in some way prepared him for what he was here for. So would you say you as well, looking back at the first quarter of your life, yes, it was fun at some moment, it was painful in a lot of other moments, but all of that is preparing you for your ultimate, purpose in this lifetime, which is being a guide, a mentor, being a Sherpa, so to speak, of the soul, especially for man, by drawing from your experiences. I think this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I see it, this is potentially your purpose in life, your mission. This is what you're here for.
I think I'm beginning to understand that we feel the purpose. It's easy, it's effortless, and it's very fulfilling, and that becomes our purpose. And we follow that purpose, and there is, and I'm beginning to understand there's not just one purpose in life. There is the purpose of the moment, and you follow that and you give that your all. And when that purpose is completed, the next purpose will show. And then you follow that and give that your heart.
Yes,
And
yes,
understanding that, then you realize that every single thing that happened to you through your life is connected in a thread
absolutely.
to equip you to fulfill that purpose. And you gather the people around you, you gather the connections around you to be able to navigate this journey. So all you need to do is follow that purpose that you have right now to its fullest thing. Stop looking at getting it right or getting it completed or having a life that other people admire. Stop looking at that and start looking at the purpose that you have right now. Like my beautiful fiance, she has an amazing gift with dogs and people, and it's her passion and it's her purpose. And it turns out it's not about the dogs, it's about the people, and helping the dogs have a better life. It's helping the people to have a better life. And that's her purpose right now. And she will follow that until the next purpose appears. And we talk about our lives together because this is my purpose now. And I live that every day the best that I can and do the work to be there. And this will continue until at such time it will be completed and the next purpose will show up. And that's a fulfilling life, is to live that purpose per purpose.
Ultimate life. Just like you mentioned yourself, and this is something I keep on saying all the time. Nothing happens randomly. Everything, even the slightest thing, happens for a reason and at the right time. When you focus on doing good, on being of service, the right people show up in your life. The right piece of the puzzle fall into place. Just like I was reading not long ago, a quote that said, our goal is to figure out the why. The how, that's none of your business. That's the universe's business. It will show you. And speaking of that, I just heard the other day something very powerful. I don't know if you meditate, but focus. The
Every
guy
day,
they
every
were
day.
saying focus your mind on what you want to accomplish, one idea for 17 seconds. Block off everything else. 17 seconds, and then within that time, you will see your mind coming up with all kind of other ideas that will expand that initial thought. Expand like a beautiful, snowball. Try that next time you
Mhm.
meditate.
It's I meditate on a daily basis because it quiets my mind so that I can
Mm,
listen to the answers that are there. And sometimes, I meditate and you don't get immediate answers, but your brain is opened up to that. And I've noticed that on meditating on a regular basis, that's one of the things I started doing, is meditating on a regular basis, not when I could, but it's as vital as eating and breathing.
absolutely.
And that method I was taught is calling is going general. But going general means that we have so many thoughts about tomorrow, about yesterday, and we have anxiety. So when you stop and for 17 seconds, think about what's going on, like there's the trees outside or there's this, and you focus on that, then you focus on where you are for 17 seconds and then do that again and do that again. And pretty soon the conflict inside of you just disappears. And in the same way, when you focus on the new client that's going to come along, and it's so wonderful that I have this new client and they're so responsible and they're fun to work with and they easily pay my fee without a problem. And we're having fun and we're creating great work together. And this is the kind of person I'd love to work together. And we laugh a lot of times and we get some things wrong, but we can talk about it. I just went on for 17 more seconds. And when you do that and you consistently do that, you're sending out a signal that's attracting that. And it also works in your brain. And it's amazing that the 17 seconds followed by 17 seconds again, you can do that wherever you are.
Yes.
It's an amazing method. It's one of the tools in my toolkit
Wow.
of bringing me right back when I have doubt, fear, worry, anxiety. I'm like, okay, you're being anxious because you're thinking about the future. You're being fearful because you're thinking about the past. So for 17 seconds, what's the color of those trees? There's a bird over there. You can feel the wind. It's a little cloudy today and there's a little bit of chill. Your skin feels that. And all of a sudden, I'm doing that for 17 seconds and then I can go on a little more. And then all of a sudden, I can't remember what I was worried about and I move on. And then in the same way, when I want to create something, I go to the future and I think how amazing it is and how does it feel? And it's so wonderful. And I stay in that for a little while. And when you do that, then life goes, okay, let's go create that for you. It's amazing, amazing power.
Absolutely. I'm so happy that you mentioned that. Absolutely. Wow. Listen, Bryan, I can talk to you for hours. Been 2 hours we talked. Phenomenal, just flew by.
I love that. Love that.
We have to bring you back for part 4, game 4. You haven't even talked about your business, your current business,
Right. And we'll talk about that in the next time is why am I in business?
Yeah.
And what do I do?
I would like
that
to
had an interesting journey.
Also, there's 2 ideas for beautiful topics for podcast. One would be you and your beautiful girlfriend talking together to see how is life dealing with what you went through and hearing things from her perspective. And then another one I would love to have is both you and Randy on the same, sharing the floor and getting your feedback from each other, bouncing back. And that would be amazing. I can't wait till we actually do that in person. But in the meantime, we'll do it on Zoom. We'll schedule game 4 for sometime hopefully next week, and we'll take it one game at a time, my friend.
I love this time together. Thank you for the blessing that you've been. And I hope that's those that are listening replays back some of this. And this, even if there's one message that you're supposed to hear from this, then we've done our work.
Absolutely. Listen, this has been absolutely pure gold. One of the most candid, most touching, most powerful and deepest conversation I've had in a long time, not just on the podcast, but in a long time. Not just with a complete stranger, even though we haven't met in person, but over the past 3 weeks and 4 weeks actually that we talked, we become almost like brothers because you shared so much with me, and
thank you.
It's powerful. This is why I love the podcast, the connection, not just shallow connection, but real deep connection. I can't wait till we actually face to face, chin beers and steaks, and and have a good laugh. And that would be, I'm sure you have a lot more stories to tell that would not be good for the podcast.
It'll be a very entertaining time for us and anybody listening.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait. Well, we might even just whip the phone and just record, and who cares? Just let it do a live stream,
We always have fun. Love
absolutely.
This. Thank you so much for this.
Listen, brother, pleasure's all mine. As we say here, have a fantabulous evening and a beautiful weekend ahead of you. Stay safe, stay awesome. God bless you. We'll definitely be talking very soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Peace.
Bye-bye.